Hello, how is everyone doing today? This is Orn. This is going to be my TEC Season 6 Aegislash draft analysis. And I don't really know what else to say. I mean, I'm excited. I think the roster is good. I'm not gonna do pre-transactions, post-transactions thing like I did for Season 4. I'm just gonna probably ramble my way through my roster and just give my thoughts and reasons for every pick. Hope you guys don't mind the music too much either. So anyway, let's get to things. So I got 4th pick out of 16, I believe. And this was an interesting scenario because if I recall, the first 3 picks were Dragapult, then Megadancy, then Tapu Lele. Yeah, so there was one Mon that was still on the board, and a friend of mine had it last season. And said friend is the pick right after me. And I made a promise to he's actually on sports right now, to Mr. JK, who is in this division as well, that this person would not get this Pokemon again. Which meant that I had to give up my 4th pick for something that I didn't necessarily want. It's not bad at all. It's broken Pokemon, but I already used it in the past to great success, and I usually like to change things up, but I made a promise, and so I had to go with Broken Fire Shifu Single. This thing doesn't need any explanation. You just click Wicked Blow and kill things. That's really all there is to it. Fighting Dark type, great attack, pretty good speed, decent natural bulk, broken ability, at least for doubles. In singles, it's just a nice bonus. The main draw of this thing is just this move right here. That's all you really need. Most of the time, you're just gonna run like a choice band or a choice scarf, and then you're just gonna run close combat with the blow. Usually, you run sucker punch. Usually, you run a coverage move like poison jab or iron head to kill fairy types. You can really do whatever you want with this thing. It gets U-turn. It gets some other nice coverage like Thunder Punch if you want to hit some waters like a Pelipper, or Stone Edge if you want to hit Zapdos and not get staticked. For the most part, this Pokemon doesn't really need explanation. You know what it does. It's definitely a worthy round 1 pick. And, like, I guess I'm happy to have it. Like, at least my friend doesn't... my friend's not gonna have it again. I mean, he has Lando I, which is insane sheer force, but yeah, I made a promise, and that was my first pick. So as for my next pick, because that was 4th pick, I'm going to be first to last in the 2nd round, which means a lot of Pokemon go by. And now this Pokemon probably shouldn't have made it to me, but I managed to convince the person who wanted to get it to take something else instead. And I've been wanting to use this thing for a long time, and yeah, I got Latios, regular Latios, because Mega's broken, but this guy is a very nice Urshifu partner. Now, when I usually build my draft, I usually like to have specific cores, like the Fairy Dragon Steel core is the most notorious one, and then there's cores like Fire, Water, Grass. The core that I always like try to get as early as possible, which many people don't, is a core called Dark Fighting Psychic. And Latios doesn't only cover this with Urshifu being the fighting in dark, adding the psychic. Latios adds a dragon, and getting good dragons early is very important. So this covers my holds very, very nicely. I paired these two up on multiple occasions in like smaller stuff, and they work really, really well together, and I'm very happy to have this. I was very happy that it made it to me, because it really shouldn't have, considering how many people wanted it. But I'll take it. Now, this thing is very similar to Urshifu, but it's also very different from it. They attack from different sides. Latios, instead of having just the raw natural bulk or Urshifu, and then Urshifu has 97 speed, Latios actually goes with a blazing 110, which for most dragons is pretty crazy. Like, if I just go to dragon types and type speed, Latios is gonna be up there, except for like the broken like the Eternatus and the Naganadels of the world and the Rayquazas. Like if we just look at regular, like there's Mega Sceptile who can't Scarf. There's Dragapult, which is notorious for being like the best mon in the format. There's Noivern, who is weak and generally underwhelming. And then Zygarde 10%, who acts more like a ground type than an actual dragon. And then we get to the Latios. So, besides Dragapult, Latios is like the best fast dragon that's actually available. Unless you prefer Latios' bulk. But for Urshifu, these guys wanna hit hard. And so Latios just does that better. And Latios in this generation is better than ever for multiple reasons. Pursuit is no longer in the game, and it got very nice moves to hit Steel types and Mystical Fire and Orser, which it did not have before, which just makes this thing insane. Like, in most matchups, you're just gonna run 2 stabs, and then a coverage move, and like, whatever else you want. You want Calm Mind, you want Roost. If you're running a Choice Item Trick, you can even run Memento for support. This mon can do whatever it wants. Heck, run it physical. Run Dragon Claw. Dragon Dance. You run Dragon Dance and then you run like Dragon Claw, Zen, Earthquake, whatever you want, right? This mon does this mon is crazy. Like, it's so versatile. It does whatever you want it to do. It's very consistent as well. Like, most of its moves are very accurate, which I think is really important. It's a big reason why like mons like Urshifu are as good as they are, because they usually don't rely on hitting their attacks. They just hit all the time with low close combat. So Latios has Draco, which is 90, which isn't the best, but it's also a lot better than mons like Tornadus T, which I'm very infamous for using. Who likes using Hurricane, which is just gonna miss a lot. Like, you just kind of have to accept that, right? But 90% for a stab move is not bad at all. And of course you have Psyshock, Psychic. And then if you really want to run a move that'll hit, you can run Dragon Pulse, which is just a lot weaker, but it does hit, and it's still a Latios, so it's still gonna hit hard. What else did I not mention? Defog is nice. I think I already mentioned Roost or Recover, which Recover on the Latios is usually better, because they're not actually flying types, so going with Roost just removes your ground immunity for no reason. Yeah, Leaf Side is also really nice, I forgot to mention that. Because not getting hit by spikes, toxic spikes, is very nice. I guess Thunder Wave could be cool sometimes, but I think you get the gist of it. Latios is just great, and I'm very happy to have it. It's probably the mon I'm most excited to use, if I'm being completely honest. So after this, I probably could have saved this for a later round, but this is a Pokemon I really like, and I thought it just fit on this team way too well to not grab it round 3. Especially because, like, I had a lot of options for the next 2 rounds. So I went with Aerodactyl. Mega Aerodactyl, to be specific. This is a very comfort pick for me. 150 speed is just insane. Definitely makes up for the fact that this thing cannot Scarf. And if I'm being honest, I didn't really have a true purpose to slap this on this team right now. I just kind of really wanted it, so I took it. It's that simple. I really enjoy using this thing. What do we talk about it? I mean, this is not significant, but running pre-Mega as Pressure or Unnerve can give you pretty nice information to start the battle, knowing if something is Scarfed. If they have Scarf Landorus T and their Intimidate goes before Pressure on Aerodactyl, then you know they're Scarfed immediately if you both lead off, which is nice. And then, as for what this thing does, it can do a lot of things. Like I mentioned, it's really, really, really fast, so a lot of the time you're not even gonna need that much speed. Like, if you just run almost max speed Adamant, you outrun Tapu Koko. Like, yeah, this thing is just that fast. So, like, you can even run Jolly and then compromise on set speed to just run like a really bulky set, you know. So that's another added bonus on this Pokemon. And then as far as moves, Tough Claws makes this thing ridiculously strong. I don't remember what the exact boost is. Like, I know Tyrantrum gets Tough Claws. Oh, no, it doesn't. What's one that gets Tough Claws that isn't Barbaracle? That's one. Don't ask why that was the one I thought. Gives you a 1.3 boost. That's a lifer boost to all moves that make contact. And this Pokemon got dual wing beat this generation. Which, I mean, it looks like a very average move on purpose, like on paper. 90 accuracy, 40 power. With Tough Claws, this jumps up to significant heights. That's like effectively 100 base power without stab. Sorry. So yeah, 100 base power without stab. And then you add the stab on top of it. And then also add in the fact that this thing can boost up with Hone Claws. Or even better, another move we got this generation, Dragon Dance. Which allows you to just compromise them even more speed. Because all of a sudden, at plus 1 speed, this is already naturally faster than a base 100. So without any speed, you Dragon Dance up once and you're faster than every base 100 with a Choice Scarf. That's insane. And obviously, you're gonna run speed most of the time. So look at that. 395, 1D Dance, bam, you're fast in Scarf Tapu Koko. Which people might even bring to check this thing. So good. So it hits hard. It can set up. It doesn't even have to set up, by the way. It did not have Dragon Dance until Generation 8. In other generations, it didn't have dual wing beat either, but it would run like Aerial Ace, and you don't even have to run Contact. You can run like Stone Edge and Earthquake and whatever you want, really. This thing gets amazing coverage. Like, just look at this. Aqua Tail, Crunch, Fire Fang, Ice Fang, even Thunder Fang if you really want to go that route. Psychic Fangs, it also got recently. Iron Head is something that always had, I think. And beyond just its offensive capabilities, it's very simple to just run like a Roost Toxic set. And heck, it even gets Defog and Stealth Rocks. Like, it provides so much utility all in one slot. Speed, power, cleaner, breaker, support, lure, whatever you want. The only drawback, I think, is that Rock Flying is a very mediocre defensive typing. Like, what do you resist with it? Like, Bug. Other Flying is actually notable. Ground immunity is enormous, of course. Normal, I guess it's better to resist normal than not. Like, it's just a nice added bonus, but that's about it, right? And then you have a lot of weaknesses. You're weak to electric, you're weak to ice, you're weak to rock, steel, water. Those are all very prominent types. I guess besides rock, but besides the point. Not the greatest typing, but this thing just offers way too much, and I felt like giving this up would just be not ideal. So I grabbed it. So far, looking at my team, my top 3 picks, and I think to myself, okay, I have speed, I have power on both sides. I have 2 defoggers, 1 rocker. I can worry about hazards later. What is a problem is the fact that I have 2 fairy weak mons, and then my last mon doesn't resist fairy and isn't that bulky / defensively capable. So I needed a steel or just a fairy answer ASAP. And this Pokemon was still sitting on the board. So I thought, heck, why not? This is the Aegislash division. I'm going to draft the mascot. And yeah, it doesn't need too much of an explanation. Aegislash is very interesting this generation. Initially it got nerfed by its base stats dropping. Instead of 150, they dropped to 140. For better and for worse. If it was still 150, this thing would, like, I'm pretty certain this thing would still be banned. Considering what I'm about to talk about next. It receives access to close combat. Yeah, I don't know what Game Freak was thinking. Like, they had to nerf it. And personally, I'm glad he did. Because now we get to use this thing. And this gives me a Steel and a Ghost type. Steel is one of the best defensive typings in the game. Ghost is one of the best offensive typings in the game. And the 2 pair together immensely well. And if you're unaware, stance change allows you to change between attack and shield form. Or blade and shield form. Sorry. Effectively attack and defense form. This is a defensive form. This is how you start out. And when you attack, your stats actually flip. Let me actually just show the picture right there. Your stats just flip. You become frail, but you have 140 attacking stats. Which means this thing can attack on both sides. and doesn't even have to attack necessarily. It can run a very notorious toxic sub King's Shield set. I didn't even mention this move. This move is great. This move also got nerfed in past generations. This would harshly drop attack, and now it just reduces it by -1. But it's still very, very good. And using this brings you back to shield form after you have changed forms. And what I'm here to mainly talk about is how well this thing actually hits. Like, it's very defensively and offensively potent. Defensively because you start off with freaking 140 in both defenses. And I already mentioned you could just run leftovers and sub and King's Shield, and you could just heal up really, really quickly. Especially with another one I'm going to show you up ahead very soon. But let's get to that in due time. For now, let's talk about Aegislash. Like I said, very offensively potent as well, on top of its great defensive benefits. I already mentioned that it got access to close combat, and the fact that this thing can hit on both sides. We have Iron Head and Shadow Claw, which you usually use for stab on the physical end. You have Shadow Sneak for very crucial priority. I should also mention Sacred Sword is a very underrated tech move, in case you're really worried about like an Iron Defense Body Press Pokemon. Because it ignores stat changes, which is a way I've beaten Pokemon that do that many, many times. So, very handy right there. Psycho Kite is whatever coverage. Head Smash can be potentially devastating. Gotta mention that. I can sub up, and when a Fire type switches into me, click Head Smash, gone. And then what? What else? Okay, so that was on the physical end. On the special end, and personally, I actually prefer using Aegislash this way. Like, if you play Gen 8 OU, you've heard the term Specs Shadow Ball. Specs Shadow Ball is just a disgusting move. Like, barely anything switches into it. It's just like bulky dark types, like normal types. And guess what? Aegislash just clicks close combat on those. And yes, you still run close combat on spec sets, for those who don't know. Because that's just how you beat its counters. It's like, you can even run Modest with no attack, and it's still gonna do like pretty much 50% to all mons that switch into this that are weak to it. So definitely worth it. And after those mons are gone, you just click your specs moves, and then nothing switches in. Like, you could, what's other special moves this thing get? You can run Air Slash if you want to get cheeky and catch like a Virizion or something that's quad weak to flying. But generally, you're better off using your stabs. I didn't mention that on the physical end, you also do have the option to lose up with Swords Dance. This one can run really whatever it wants. You can run Specs. I ran Assault Vest multiple times because this thing is just really, really thick with Assault Vest. Life Orb hits hard if you want to run Mixed. Leftovers is good for longevity. Cobra Berry is nice if you want to get around knockoffs. I didn't mention that with Latios, but it's also an option if you wanted to run bulky sets. I mean, that's about it. Like, it's versatile enough for what it gives, I think. Like, it's Aegislash, for Pete's sake. This mod is great. If you disagree, then stick around and watch me use it. Maybe I'll change your mind. I think it fits on this team really well, though, for sure, as a fairy answer. One of the better steals that were left that I could have gotten. The only other option was Celesteela, and I was thinking, I already have Aerodactyl as a flying type, and Latios was also immune to ground. And I generally don't like Celesteela, like, because it's either forced to run a very passive defensive Leech Seed set, or it can potentially fail using an offensive set, though usually when it does run it, it sweeps me. But that's the point. Let's just move on to the next one. Aegislash, very nice pickup. So far, what did I mention? My Dark Fighting Psychic Core is complete. We've been over that. And then I mentioned other cores as well. I mentioned the Fairy Dragon Steel Core, and as you noticed, I have my Dragon and I have my Steel. So I thought, what better time than to grab my Fairy than now? And I don't exactly remember what was still around on the board. All I do know is that most of the good Fairy types were gone. Like, if I just look at this, Lele I already said was gone. Coco and Feeny, of course, were gone. Even if Clef wasn't gone, which I'm Pretty sure it was. I wouldn't have taken it because I fucking hate this thing. Mega Mawile was actually what I initially wanted to draft, for those who didn't know. And then Orange took it. Which I was going to say, if I get Urshifu Mega Mawile, it is just a wrap. But I really figured I wasn't going to get that. And the other fairies that were left, Azumarill I think was gone. The other ones are, as you can tell, they're all mostly just megas. And I already have my mega. Which basically meant that I'm not getting a great fairy. But there was one left on the board, which I'm not exactly hyped about, but it'll suffice. And that mon is Sylveon. Now, before Gen 8, actually, not even before Gen 8 necessarily, like, how do I explain this? Sylveon has recently been dealing with a very irritating problem for it, where from being a resilient wish passer that is also like naturally offensively potent, because what I'm about to mention, Pixelate Hyper Voice, people came up with this funny little idea called, I'm pretty sure Urshifu actually gets smooth, yeah, Throat Chop. Throat Chop, for 2 turns, makes it so that the target cannot use sound moves. So, if you're running Pixelate Hyper Voice, and something random catches you with a Throat Chop, they're free to do whatever they want. Well, you're stuck unable to damage them. Because, more often than not, Hyper Voice is going to be your only effective move against those Pokemon. For example, I ran that on Mega Gallade in a tournament once. I just ran Throat Chop, Swords Dance, and then Close Combat, and I think I ran Psycho Cut. Or something like that. So what I did, Sylveon switched in, I clicked Throat Chop, it then cannot Hyper Voice, I click Swords Dance, and I just won the game. Right? So Sylveon just has this problem where, like, it either predicts the Throat Chop and runs freaking Moonblast, which is much worse. It has its benefits, yes, but it's not as ideal as just clicking Pixelate Hyper Voice. Or to run Pixelate Hyper Voice and risk potentially losing because you get Throat Chopped on the spot to something that your brain is thinking because it's meant to check it. So that's the one big downside of Sylveon in my opinion. But other than that, I did mention, like, if you don't have to worry about Throat Chop being a thing, this thing is very, very reliable. It's very bulky, despite this, like the defense stat saying 65. 95 HP makes up for that, and with an investment, if you just run max defense, max HP, it's resilient enough, for sure. So, what did I not mention? I already mentioned Pixelate Hyper Voice being a great tool, because it like, even if you're running max defense, you have 110 special attack, which is just naturally potent with such a powerful move, because you get Stab and the 20% Pixelate boost off of it. And so the only things that are really going to want to switch into this are Poison and Steel types, well, and Fire types. But mostly Poison and Steel types, because they actually hit it back really hard. But Sylveon can pack Psyshock or Mystical Fire to deal with those. So it's usually not passive and like enough for people to take advantage of it. Like I said, the only way people really learn to get around this thing now is through Throat Chop. And so I'm gonna have to be very cautious of that when using it. But if not, and this thing is just naturally reliable. It gets some pretty nice moves like Heal Bell, and I already mentioned Wish, so it can Wish Protect. Patch Resist to teammates, heal itself if needed. It can boost up with Calm Mind. It can Baton Pass without passing Calm Mind, because that is illegal. You are allowed to Dry Pass, meaning no passing stats, which means, like, I would have to run something like this if I wanted to run Baton Pass. I'm not allowed to run it with a boosting move, even Curse. So yeah, well, besides that, this thing is not necessarily restricted in any other way. Get some other nice things like Toxic, Yawn. Get set up. I didn't say if it can get light screen. Okay, it can. It can sit both screens. I already have a Pokemon that does, but it does it better in Latios, but Still worth a mention. Draining Kiss could be potent. That's about it. This thing is pretty one-dimensional for the most part. You either click Hyper Voice, or like you're either just offensive with like specs, or you're just like a bulky pivot / cleric set. You're generally doing the same thing every week with this thing, but it doesn't need to do anything else. It does what you want it to do, and it's reliable and it's bulky, and that's about it. That's all you could really want from a bulky fairy. Okay. Enough about Sylveon. So far we got Fairy, Dragon, Steel, Dark Fighting, Psychic, right? So now is when I start to think, okay, I have my big damage dealers already. I have Pokemon that are going to attack generally on the physical side. I have Pokemon that are going to generally attack on the special side, and then Pokemon that can do both. And so this is where I start picking up my bulk, as I like to say. And I decided to grab my water type up next because I do like my bulky waters. I think they're always very important, for sure. And so I would say this is my favorite bulky water personally, Suicune. Suicune has always been like one of my favorite Pokemon just in general, not even just in competitive. Just because it looks freaking sick. I mean, look at this shiny. That's the point. I've never actually used Suicune in TEC / SPDL as it was formerly known. But I've wanted to. Because the season that I won finals, that being season 4, I faced Suicune in the finals. Suicune was a menace in that season specifically. I think I got like 19 kills, 1 death in like, I don't remember, 7 games. It was crazy. And ever since then, I've played with Suicune myself, learned how to use it, and I just really enjoy it because it's bulky, it's self-sufficient, it's not too passive, and it generally gets the job done. It can even do things that you wouldn't ever expect from it. The generally most known sets that you're gonna see, like just the leftovers max defense Suicune. Like those are just the most notorious ones. So you can run like Scald, Calm Mind, Rest Talk, right? Like this is Crocoon. Everyone knows Crocoon. Or you could run the more modern set, which I personally prefer, that being the max HP, max speed, Sub-Protect Suicune, that being Vincoon. I think this set is a lot more effective and a lot less passive than the Crocoon. Because you just pressure stall, and then, like, you're constantly posing a threat during the setup. But this thing has many other options as well. Like, it just runs like a general bulky water set, like Toxic, Protect, Roar. You can still run Calm Mind on a set like this. Or you can do what I like to do and just run. One sec. And just run like a set like this. Offensive Suicune is very slept on. This thing has so many options. Heck, run a physical with Liquidation, Curse, Extreme Speed. Do whatever you want. This thing has options upon options upon options. It's usually gonna just be doing its standard old thing, but you never know. Like, the other day I played a friend of mine in a tournament match, and they brought this. It wasn't a tournament, actually. It was a drafting match. I don't remember the exact set, but I know it was something like this. Right? Like, it was just... I couldn't kill it. Like, this thing just sat down and did whatever it wanted. So, Suicune is just a great bulky water. Really like this thing. I'm very excited to use it. It's done great for me in the past, and I have no doubt it'll satisfy me once again. Okay. Okay, so next up, I wanted to focus on my hazard game a little bit more. because that's a very important part of bulk, so to say. I so far have 2 defoggers and then 1 stealth rocker. And so I generally like having a rapid spinner, but how do I say this? I generally like having the ability to rapid spin, but I do want spinners that can break through ghosts themselves, or just to run defog. But with these two, Mega Arrow plus Latios, it's a bit tricky, just a tad bit tricky to run defog. Ended up settling for Serena. And now Serena, it's not the greatest thing in the world, if I'm being completely honest. It's just a spinner that can break through ghosts. It's also a grass type. Grass types are important in my opinion, for the sole reason that they are ground resist. And people generally just like to get away with a levitate mon or a flying type or just immunities. I think just a ground resist is important because of a certain fun little Pokemon that clicks a move that hits flying types with ground moves. And so you want to have a Pokemon that can resist it as well. Just one. It can be a bug type, it can be a grass type. I generally prefer grass types because they're more defensively useful than bug types, but that's besides the point. So Serena spins. Serena beats Ghost with knockoff, and it can do other stuff. It can be offensive with something like this. Gets triple axle now, which is very, very nice coverage for it. Allows it to hit flying types mainly. Allows it to hit ground types that grass can't hit well. Allows it to hit dragons. That's a big one. Before it had to use player off for that. Heck, it can even break through steals itself using high jump kick or low kick, whatever you prefer. Generally, it's just gonna be like a bulky heavy duty boots or assault vest, and then you just run your stab move, power whip or drop kick. Generally power whip, knock off the cripple stuff. Your turn if you want to switch out of there. Rapid spin to clear the hazards. You get the drill. And even with no investment, this thing has raw 120 attack, so it hits hard. It does what it needs to do. Forget to mention, it can also heal itself with synthesis, which is, I don't know if I mentioned this, but being able to heal yourself is very, very important. Because you don't want to just be stuck, not being able to heal and then getting worn down over the course of the game, eventually getting knocked out, and then getting overwhelmed by the one mon said mon that can't heal itself got overwhelmed by, and then it just ends up beating you. So being able to heal yourself is very important for that reason. On this team, it's less important though because we have Sylveon. Sylveon can very, very easily pass wishes. It's one of the better wish users, mostly because of the high HP, but that's besides the point. This next Pokemon really, really appreciates having Sylveon around for sure, and that's Stunfisk. I decided to grab Stunfisk as my ground type as well as my electric type. I think that's the one downside of my draft as of right now. I don't have a fast electric type, so killing waters can be a bit difficult. Thankfully, I do have Urshifu and Latios, which are just two of the strongest mons in the game with their stabs alone. Wicked Blow and Draco can definitely just break waters on their own. And so having Stunfisk as my electric type really isn't that terrible. I still would have preferred something better, but what can you do when you go top heavy? All my points went on these 5, so the rest had to go as budgets for the most part. And Stunfisk is one of the better ones, if you ask me. I don't remember how many points it was, but it's serviceable enough. And for such a cheap mon, it fills its role really, really well. It's one of our, spoiler alert, only 2 stealth rockers, so this thing may be seeing more action than you might expect. And it's also the ground type for the team. Now Sylveon's gonna have to keep this boy healthy a lot because it's not the most self-sufficient Pokemon in the world. But it's not passive at all for the most part. I wouldn't say at all. If it's something you can't really damage, then good luck. Kartana. But 109 HP, 84.99 in defenses is very, very bulky. And so long as you can keep this thing healthy when necessary, it can generally be at least something 1v1. If it's meant to hard wall something throughout the course of the game, it can. And it doesn't hit the hardest in the world, but it has a very solid move pool for what it needs. Gets stabs, gets discharge, earth power, thunderbolt, thunder. Never running thunder, but besides the point. It can hit like naturally decently. It's not gonna like blow things back most of the time, but things don't enjoy switching into it, especially because of these two moves right here. Scald and Sludge Bomb are very crucial to this thing not being just a wall that doesn't do much in return. Scald can cripple you with a burn, Sludge Bomb can cripple you with a poison, and this cripples mons that want to switch into you, like other ground types and grass types. Grass types are huge because those resist both earth power and discharge. Static is a very nice ability as well. A lot of the time you can just run like, I don't know, Rocky Helmet or Leftovers and just discharge a lot of damage, or Static, which can potentially win you the game on the spot just by taking attacks, which is just great. I wish this thing had a better way to heal itself, but oh well, beggars can't be choosers, right? Like, all things considered, considering how the bottom mods in my draft just had to be like budgets for the most part, this thing is like one of the better budget mods I could have taken, as well as something that I actually see myself bringing to games and doing well with, which is important because you don't want to just draft random mods that you're never actually going to bring to games just to fill holes, because people catch on and then they just ignore it in prep because they know they're not coming. You have to bring mods that you know you're actually going to bring. For those of you who are learning how to draft viable teams out there. Anyway, next mon. So like I said, these are going to be our only two stealth rockers. And then I have all of my removal, right? What am I missing? Something very important. A grounded poison type who is a T-Spike absorber. And my own spikes. Of both forms. And luckily, I didn't actually draft this Pokemon during the initial draft, but it got dropped in Grace, and I thought it fit well enough on my team to grab it, and that is Garbodor. The actual pile of trash itself. And it's not that. It's not as trash as you might expect, I promise. Aftermath is a nice ability, for the most part. Like, it's just a nice bonus, removing 25% of whatever kills you with a contact move. Which, if you play well, you can generally get that to happen. But like I mentioned, this thing is mainly just here to throw down the toxic spikes and the spikes and absorb them for our team, if needed. It actually doesn't hit... it's not as weak as you think. 95 attack is not great on the surface, but Stab Gunk Shot hits really hard on top of a 30% poison chance. And then for coverage, this thing got pretty decent coverage all around. You got Drain Punch, you got Seed Bomb to hit water types, you got Stomping Tantrum, which is very nice for other poison types. I already mentioned the whole Spikes situation. Rock Blast is nice if you want to catch a Charizard. As for status, this thing is like this thing has got some options. You could run Haze. Pain Split is nice if you really need this thing to heal itself. Actually, I'm not sure. Does this thing get Pain Split too? Oh, it does. Okay, that's good to know. I thought this thing had actually no way to heal itself. Pain Split is something, at least. As far as other status move, Corrosive Gas is underrated. If you wanted this thing to set weather, I don't know why you would, but it's an option. That's about it. I actually ran Thunderbolt Garbodor to beat Skarmory at one point. You can run, you shouldn't run Giga Drain, but you can. Oh yeah, Clear Smog is one I forgot to mention. Clear Smog is very, it can save you if you have the right matchup for it. Generally, Haze can be better, but Clear Smog can't get taunted. So, that's a win in its favor. Garbodor has both ways of shutting down stat boosters. And its bulk is very decent all around. 80, 82, 82 is okay. It's not as good as Stunfisk. funnily enough, but it's good enough to get by. And this thing fills holes like no other Pokemon could for this team, so it'll do well, I think. And it, like I said, it's gonna come to games. That's the important thing. And then my last pick. This is this is for 1 point. Okay, I had no. This is my last point that I had to use during the draft. I cannot get anything else besides this. Porygon. Now, most people are aware with the menace that is Porygon 2. Porygon 2 with an Eviolite. He's known for being so bulky and annoying to kill. And for the most part, yeah. But if you look at Porygon's stats right next to it, they don't drop off that much. It's a 20-point difference in all of HP defenses, or its HP and its defenses. Now, it's not going to be an immovable wall like Porygon 2 is against most things, but it's definitely enough to get by. Definitely viable when you consider the fact that it can recover, as well as teleport. There we go. I was like, what the hell? Anyway, teleport is enormous for this thing, because it provides free switch-ins for these behemoths that I have on my team. Like I said, being able to recover is still massive. I didn't mention this, but having a normal type, at least for this generation, I think is important, because, like I said earlier with Aegislash, you got these ghost types running around spamming Specs Shadow Balls, or Shifu being my only dark type, with 60 special defense, is not going to want to take them consistently. So, having a normal type is important for that. And Porygon can fill that role. It gets Foul Play to hit hard itself, if something tries to set up on it, on the physical side. If it's on the special side, you can run Toxic, if I can spell, Lamau. Toxic, and like I already mentioned, Recover, Teleport. It gets all the same moves that Porygon 2 gets, like Ice Beam and Thunderbolt and Discharge and all that jazz. So Porygon 2 can regular Porygon, like I said, it can come to games. If I need to bring this against the Spectre matchup, I can for sure consider it. And that's the team. Like I said earlier, I think this draft is good. I don't think it's one of my craziest drafts out there. This is definitely not coming anywhere close to my Mega Scizor Keldeo Kyurem team that I had in SDL Season 10 that made me to semis. But I think this can definitely get me to playoffs. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to use. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to prep. And I think I'm going to have a very fun time this season, especially compared to last season. Last season started off okay, besides the 0-4 I took week 1. But I learned that my team sucked. Which is funny because it won first place in power rankings. But I learned that Zero Aura is a very bad Pokemon. And by that I mean, if you're on an Atom in Nature, using your physical electric move with 100 base power, you cannot ever kill a Tapu Lele. This frail piece of shit can leave your base 100 physical stab move, even with an Atom in Nature. God, this Pokemon is bad. And so, this being my main damage dealer sucked. Because as you can tell, it doesn't kill things. And this really dragged me down. And I'm showing you this card specifically because this lost me playoffs by a single point of differential. So, yeah. This team can definitely kill things. I have an Urshifu, I have a Latios, I have an Aegislash, I have a Mega Aerodactyl. This team can kill things. So, I'm not going to be having the same problem. Now, I have already played my week 1 game at the time of recording this. And I don't know if I want to record games this season. If you guys really want, let me know in the comments below. I will make a video of me going over the game and like explaining my team, explaining my thought process, everything like that, right? if you guys really want me to do this, then let me know in the comment section below. I will definitely consider it if enough people want this. And I think I will make at least one more video. Actually, two more. One more soon about power rankings. I've discussed with multiple people about it. I think I'm gonna make power rankings for Aegislash because it doesn't seem like anyone else is going to. So, of course, the job falls to me. And I've already thought about a couple things. I definitely know which team is going in the worst. I'm looking at you, the team with no steel type and 0 fairy resist. Anyway, that's gonna be one video, and then at the end of the season, I'll probably make a video like discussing how the team did, my hopes for potential playoffs. If I don't make playoffs, then hopes for next season, things like that, right? But that's about it. If you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a comment, like the video, subscribe, all that jazz, right? I'm very excited for the season. So, I'd like to see you all, like, in the next video, whenever it's gonna be. So, yeah. Have a good one, everyone.